Hi, this is Todd Creager, and I am honored to be interviewing somebody I've known throughout my career, pretty much. John Gray. He has written many books, 20 books, I think, about. And of course, the one that everyone knows about is Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. But he's written many other Mars-Venus books. I was at his one of his book tours when he talked about when Mars and Venus collide. And today we'll be focusing on his current book, which I love, called Beyond Mars and Venus. And so we'll be focusing on that. John Gray has been in the field for decades, written over 20 books. I know, John, you've also been very involved in the field of health and relationships and supplements and lifestyle, because as we know, to be a healthy partner, we need to be a healthy person. And we need to be able to manage our emotions and our stress well, to be able to manage our partner's emotions. And we'll get into all that stuff. I love that stuff, and hormones. And as a USC professor that knows some of this stuff, a little much to be dangerous, to read your book would really help complete it. He's been married for many years to Bonnie and lives in Northern California. Been on many TV shows, Oprah, the whole circuit, Fox, I know CBS this morning, Good Morning America. That I got to read. It's too many to remember. CBS, Good Morning America, and others. And I'm honored to have you with me, John, here today. So thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much.
John was nice enough to endorse my book, The Long Hot Marriage, way back in 2008. By the way, it's getting published in China. It'll be out in November. I didn't tell you that. So it's great. And you're a big part of that. So what I want to first talk about is, you've written all these books, and of course, Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus. And some people might look at Beyond Mars and Venus and think, oh, I've read his book. I've read his stuff. But it's really a book unto itself. So I guess I'd want to start up by asking you about your evolution of thinking and why people should read Beyond Mars and Venus, even if they've read one or more of your other books on Mars and Venus.
Oh, sure. Well, Beyond Mars Venus has been, many years in the making. It is an evolution, as you mentioned. It goes along with what's happening in our relationships today. And simply put, men tend to be taking on more of their sensitive qualities and following their heart more, being more in touch with their feelings, sensitivities. Women are moving more towards what we'll call male side, which is a sense of independence, problem solving, self-reliance, being analytical, a detachment. And what I've been able to see so clearly is that these masculine qualities increase testosterone and these feminine qualities increase estrogen. So that's a given. When you're being emotional, always your estrogen levels are going up, whether you're a man or woman. And when you're being independent, self-reliant, detached, logical, tough, all that sort of stuff, your testosterone goes up. So that's a given. And what's great today is that men and women, in a sense, are kind of on the level of the mind. We have sort of a psychological androgyny. I can be both feminine and masculine. And that's actually can be very confusing for people. Yes. But when we come down to the body, which is not the psychology, but coming to the body, there is this reality, which is if you've got a man's genetics, your testosterone levels are required to be at least 10 to 20 times higher than a woman's. Otherwise, you'll be depressed. And for a woman, your estrogen levels are required to be at least 10 to 20 times higher than a man's, the average man. Otherwise, you will be depressed. So happiness is what we want. In our relationships, we want to be happy. And so what I realized when I got this clear picture, and there's so much over the medical community has given us all this information. Now we can look at how our behaviors, the qualities that we express during the day, trigger and stimulate the production of certain hormones. So rather than trying to solve this massive problem today, which is called hormonal imbalance, people are now taking hormones. Rather than depending on taking hormones, which has never been done in history, is to learn how to make hormones. And it's actually much healthier if you can make the right hormones for your body type, rather than go to someone and have them give you the hormones for your body type. You can get symptomatic relief in many cases, but it's much better to make it yourself.
Yes, and as you eloquently put it too, when you take the hormones, it's telling your body you don't have to make the hormones. So it actually can really work in reverse and really hurt you. And as I teach, as I was telling you, I'm here right now at USC where I'm teaching, and I'm teaching a class in neurobiology and theory. And it's amazing how much we have learning the mind body. I mean, it's something we've been talking about for decades, but now we could see it. We could see the brain working, the live brain. We know it really works. And we know how thoughts and behaviors can affect us. So, but when you write it in your book, it made me more motivated. And it's helping, even in the short time since I've read your book, it's helping my couples get it and be more motivated to do the things they need to do. Because as we know, being in a relationship, doing the things that are required aren't always easy. So when they start to look at some of your ideas on hormones, I think it's really motivating. You know, when we start to talk about, and I'll ask you more about it, how a man can push his woman more into her male or more into her female. And whereas both are important, but oftentimes as men want to be able to push our women more into her female hormones, and that's what gets us what we want. I guess we should just start there. Talk a little bit more about that, how spouses can literally push their partners more into their male or their female.
Okay. I don't use the term push, but it has the same meaning. But no, it is energetically pushing someone, gently moving them into their male or female side. If, let's say, one of the qualities when a man is, when his testosterone is normal, he tends to be motivated. When his testosterone is low, he tends to be unmotivated. So whenever any woman can tell you, she goes crazy if a guy's sitting around playing games all day, doing nothing productive. She feels this, first she kind of feels this restlessness and stirred up inside, and then she starts feeling like, well, then I have to do everything. And any man who's married to a woman who feels I have to do everything, often just being around her will make you tired, and you'll want to sit down and do nothing. So, so there is an energetic shifting that takes place when men go to the female side of them, which would be when men feel more passive, actually their estrogen levels are going higher and their testosterone's going lower. They don't have that sort of momentum to do things. They just want to retire, want to quit. I don't want to bother. Mañana, it's all fine. How do I do it? And a little of that is fine. You know, I'm not against men being on their female side, but it becomes a problem if their female hormones dominate and their male hormones go down. So we do have this tendency to shift gears. And I'll tell you kind of the evolution as a therapist and my own. You can see this, what happens in marriages. Without it, let's take the hormones out of the discussion for a moment and just kind of look at what happens. Is men start out with all this sort of dynamism, and I'm going to make her happy, I'm going to please her, I'm going to energetically do this. And women are like, oh, finally, I don't have to do it all myself. I have someone I can depend on, I can rely on, and so forth. Okay, that dynamic is measure their hormones at that time. Men's testosterone levels are brimming. Women's estrogen levels are up. She's receptive. She's open. She's feeling love. That's all estrogen.
Oxytocin too. It's all that. Yeah. And
oxytocin is going up. And what by the way, well, we'll talk about oxytocin later, but that's all happening. Right. Then what happens on a behavioral level is the man feels like, okay, now that I've sort of won I've accomplished it. I've climbed the mountain. It's time to take a nap. And literally, that taking a nap, that resting, is a way for men to rebuild their testosterone. But what happens is when he's like taking his nap, so to speak, he's like going to relax, lay back. She starts to resent that he's not that same guy. And so she's not going to depend on him. So she figures, well, he said he was going to do this. He didn't do this. I'll just do it myself. Right. Every woman knows that experience of, honey, would you do this? And he goes, yeah, I'll do it. And then he forgets to do it. He's watching TV or whatever. And she goes, okay, I'll just do it myself. It's easier to do it myself than to ask for his help. And so, boom, you've just shifted from needing and depending on him, which stimulates estrogen, to, you know, I just can't depend on him. I'll just do it myself. It's easier. And now she's over on her male side, efficiency, lack of vulnerability. Don't have to depend on anybody. Don't have to feel rejected. Don't have to wait. You know, it's so testosterone levels go up. And now as she's doing everything, the men sort of sit back and go, okay, I don't have to do it. And literally, it's as if, now I'm at the third level of this, on an experiential level, it's as if there's magnets on his butt and he cannot get up. It's just like he can't move. And the same kind of resistance he has to doing more and giving more, she has the resistance to relaxing and depending on him. So it's like, and every woman goes, why can't you just get up and do it? And I say, why can't you just relax and enjoy the house, even if it's not perfect? It's hard. These are places where we get locked into them. And what we have to know is how to unlock that. And what I have found is this understanding of hormones is like, gives me an extra key, an extra tool. If I'm a man and I'm realizing that I'm being too passive and I don't have the energy in my marriage or whatever, then what I have to do is the opposite of sitting there. I need to go and do something that has nothing to do with her, that maybe go out and play tennis with a guy, go to the gym, get in some competition, go learn something new, something that I'm good at. It will raise my testosterone high, then come back and I'll have more energy for her. So it's like understanding that when I have the symptoms of low testosterone, being in my relationship, I'll be more and more passive. I need to get out of it, so to speak, and be alone. And you've seen this when couples have had big, big problems and they separate, and now they become different people. They're no longer magnetically being pushed around by their partner. They're back on their own, and now they can generate their own energies. And then you can come back, and often couples who separate do come back and feel the love for each other. Unfortunately, they don't yet have new skills to sustain it. That's the problem, is they don't know why separation actually made it better. And for the woman, when she's not waiting for the man to help her, that builds resentment. When she can no longer blame him, there's no resentment, then she will reach out to others for help. And when she gets that help, her estrogen goes up.
Fascinating. As you were talking, I was just thinking, since I do a lot of work with couples that have infidelity, one of the patterns I've seen is when the secret's discovered, of course, devastation and trauma, but they come see me, and the next 2 weeks, a lot of times they think it's me, it's not me. They think I'm wonderful. Their sex life is amazing for those 2 weeks. And it's amazing. And it's usually just about 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, then the issues come back up. But actually, I never thought about it till you were talking. But it's a hormonal thing, I think. And it has to do with the whole estrogen goes up. She experiences her dependency. I'm assuming, let's say the man cheats.
She feels it. She feels it very strongly. And one of the things about that, which I immediately hear what you're saying, oh, that's interesting. And whenever women feel validated in expressing their feelings. So in this case, I'm assuming the man cheated and the woman was distraught. And now she has a rational justification for feeling all this pain. And he like rationally can go, okay, I can get it. I hurt your feelings. So he's actually giving her the empathy and compassion that she's required to create estrogen. And women's arousal only happens when her estrogen levels double from 10 times more than a man's to 20 times more than a man's. So suddenly it's all shot up there because she's been able to vent.
Wow, that makes sense. It makes sense. And they, of course, they're more sexual and the arousal is higher because of the estrogen. And a lot of times they'll say, both people will say, we talked more in the last week than we did over the last 20 years. And of course, that's filling her up. And then he sees her wanting him, and his testosterone goes up. So
absolutely. Whenever a woman's estrogen goes up, just walking in the presence of a woman's estrogen high will make a man's testosterone rise. That's why you'll see, this young woman walks by, a guy's head just moves. Okay, there's two reasons, but one of them is just simply she's feeling her new body. She's getting attention. Whenever you're getting attention, estrogen goes up. So she's already in this sort of estrogen place, and she's showing a little bit more skin, and men are looking. That all reinforces the estrogen level. And literally, when woman's estrogen is up, she's going to produce pheromones that shoot out into the environment. And every man's got a little pheromone detector inside of our nose that says, oh, woman ready to have sex. Send blood down south.
Yeah, you're right. It's the limbic brain that does it every time.
That's right. And that's what women have to understand. We're giving this example. It's this limbic brain. This is the monkey part of the brain. This is not exactly who we are. It's the part of who we are. But there are automatic reactions that happen, and they're not like, gee, I want that to happen right now, or I don't.
Right. A lot of it is learning to not take that personally and get caught up in all that.
Yeah.
So there was, as I was reading your book, you started talking about something that was really fascinating to me. And it was a question I've had for quite a while, because I'm old enough to remember this too. When the Beatles got on stage and the women started screaming, and even I was like, why are they screaming? So I read your book, it made sense to me, but tell a little bit about it.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a little tongue in cheek. Okay, the book has some fun in it. I like to throw little things in here, but the whole women's movement, women being independent and not being so dependent on men and having freedom to express all of who they are. I see this as a huge evolutionary shift that was just based on this androgyny of the mind. Now we can be both male and female. And it, for a million reasons, come together. But one of those reasons was not, gee, how oppressed women have been. Because there were a lot of women that had evolved further that weren't oppressed by dysfunctional fathers. Clearly, we have a host of dysfunctional fathers in the past. That's a reality. But not all fathers have been dysfunctional. Not all girls grew up with dysfunctional fathers. That's why we all mated and made love and had a good time. But that was one force, and it was a very loud force. But this huge generation of transformation, I feel, was triggered by the British invasion, the Beatles. And what happened, it all clicked in my mind when I was talking about this with my wife, Bonnie, and I was talking about all the women screaming. And she says, well, they're having orgasms. They're completely fluid down south. They were orgasmic. And that's what it was. It was an orgasmic energy, and it was triggered by these 4 guys who sang in harmony. They were simple, they were humble, they were full of love, and they were complete masculine. I mean, those guys worked hard, they were disciplined to do that. At the same time, they sang in harmony, their hearts were open, and here women were experiencing men for the first time who were, fully expressing love that makes women feel safe. And when women feel safe, then all of them can come forth. And that's the essence of our whole generational shift. It's not just women saying we don't need men anymore. It's actually men saying we want to be there more for you than ever before. And creating that safety, because ultimately throughout my book, I point out the number one need for women today. And actually it's just the number one need women have is to feel safety to express all of who they are. So, and I need it as well. But the primary need for women is this, for a man to provide a safety for her to be herself without having to suppress. And that is such a key factor. Now, in the past, it was women depended on men for safety from outer danger. The outer world was dangerous. Okay, so I need you to make it safe for me. So I'm going to have what I need to raise my children and to grow. But as soon as women have this, they can give themselves the safety. Women, have their own job. They've got police. They got civilization. Got lawyers. The whole shebang. Why do I need a man? Right. So as soon as women get to that place, a new need emerges. And that's Maslow's theory of a hierarchy of needs. And the need for women, as for men, we're in this new world, is the need for self-expression and the need for intimacy. So we have this great need. And for women, because they already had a greater degree of intimacy with their children, with their friends, the need for self-expression and achievement became dominant, and that's going to their male side. And for men who rarely ever had intimacy except in the bedroom for 2 minutes, that was basically our need for intimacy. And intimacy is to share one's heart and to do and act on your heart. So, we had Robert Bly and all the great teachers in the men's movement was, follow your heart, follow your bliss, do what you feel.
The belly. Yeah, I remember all that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the opening of the heart, and I share my own story in the 60s, the summer of love, I got long hair, I had beads, I had bell-bottom pants, and I had my boots, and I look in the mirror and go, aren't I cute, I wouldn't say cute, but I was basically looking at myself like I'm cool. But basically, it was this whole shift, and I demonstrated for peace, and I didn't want to go to Vietnam, and I wasn't the traditional male. I'm going to go to war. I'm going to support my family. I'll wear my uniform. I don't care how I look. I'll look sharp and wear the same thing every day. No, that was the female side coming forth. And, I followed my heart. I went off and it was a good thing. It was an exploration of all I could be. I became actually, I wanted to meet the Beatles and they went to India to be with the Maharishi. So I went to India to be with the Maharishi and eventually lived with Maharishi for 9 years. I never met the Beatles. They had already left. But I followed my heart. And then I had to come back to my male side, which was get a job, make money, develop a skill, and get out there and do it. Right. So I had to balance both those sides.
Right. That's great. And you've achieved a great degree of success in a field that is very nurturing. And I have too, not to the degree you have, but we're there, we're dealing with feelings. And I wonder what, I love what I do. I've been doing this a long time as you have. And I do believe, especially after reading your book, that one of the reasons I love what I do so much is because I could be in my feminine when I'm nurtured there and being there, and I could be in my masculine, making things happen, doing the speaking and doing the book, whatever, making deals. So we have that beautiful balance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's such one of the things I talk about in the book is the different types of social experiences that we have. And one of them is called pair bonding.
Yes.
Pair bonding for women is in pair bonding, one person is increasing estrogen and the other person is increasing testosterone. So when you're being a therapist, oh my gosh, it's like the ultimate for enlightenment as far as I'm concerned, because you're able to empathize, you're there because you're caring and you're empathizing, you're connecting with this person who's in touch with their feelings. That's your estrogen goes up. At the same time, they're depending on you. When someone depends on you and you're there for them because they depend on you, that increases testosterone. So it's the ultimate of pair bonding experiences, of being able to have masculine and feminine. And that's kind of like the last chapter of my book is what enlightenment really is in terms of all of these ancient traditions, which was the balancing of the male and female energies inside. The higher virtues of love, of compassion, and of equality. These are the things that happen when you have both those aspects awakened within yourself in balance. I believe that we all in the Western world have the potential to access both the male and female sides, but the trick is to keep them in balance so that they're simultaneous. And being a therapist is one of the easiest ways to do that, I think, as a man.
Even within just doing therapy itself, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Masculine and feminine is right there in the session, in the office.
And particularly when you're counseling a woman, that's just the reality. You're going into her female world. When I'm counseling men, I strengthen my masculinity, okay? But to be with a woman, I'm helping my masculine because I'm there for her, selflessly doing this thing, but I'm also entering into her world and resonating on both sides.
Yes, that's great. I even know there's the whole coaching profession. Again, I just thought of this second, but the coaching profession is very male. It's like goals, making things happen, whereas the therapist, the way I look at it, is both. Of course, there's goals and making things happen, but there's also dealing with the trauma, dealing with the pain, connecting, all that stuff. So it's a much more robust approach, I think. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I felt, people always ask me, what was the secret of my marketing for my books to be so successful? And well, they're good books, but there was a preparation before that of being a therapist for about 9 years, developing that material. Right. What happens is, the way I look at it, is the feminine part of us is the part of us that's attractive, it's beautiful, it's receptive. So we have to be connected to the female side of us to attract opportunities, to draw in. And then the male side of us makes use of those opportunities, solves problems, fixes things, commitment, deliberation, putting yourself out there. So it's working hard, but also being receptive from a place of love.
Yes.
I felt like women, after all those years of meditation and everything, to then start being a therapist opened my heart so much. Meditation opened my mind. I could go into expansive states with my mind. Detachment was the virtue, to be unattached. Right. But when you go to your female side, love is this attachment, connection and the juice. Oh, I love my food. Oh, I love my sex. Oh, I love my children. I love my wife. I love all, love. This is grabbing it. So to be able to grab and let go at the same time, that's your enlightenment, to be attached and detached at the same time. And we have that capacity now as human beings. And part of the whole journey is that as being a coach, being a therapist, as a therapist, you get to coach and do the empathy work, which is really, really, I found it fantastic.
Right. That's great. That's great. So, the few things that I'm thinking of as you talk is, number one, just about listening itself. I've been saying for years, listening is one of the most masculine things that a man can do.
And very few people know that. No, it's like counterintuitive for a lot of people, but that's right.
Yeah. And I love the way you said it. And so when you talk in terms of when you talk about the hormones, again, when a man is truly present and listening and not going to his female. So when a woman expresses her negative feeling, and you talk about complaint-free relationship, I love all this stuff. But when a woman expresses a negative feeling, and the man, instead of reacting or collapsing or saying I'm a bad person or what's wrong, and stays with her and manages himself and still stays with her, that's when he gently moves her towards her feminine.
That's right.
And then
awakens and supports her feminine and coming forth, for sure. That's like. That's really the crux of it, because ultimately when I talk about this, women, their major source of stress most commonly is they're too far on their male side. They need to come back to their female side. And it doesn't feel good to immediately do that. That's, not everything that feels good is necessarily the right thing to do. Right. If you're away on your male side, it kind of feels safe and good to keep doing that, right, as opposed to, oh, now I got to do something different. Oh, but to come back to my female side, that's risky. That's dangerous. What if I was to express how I feel? I'd be looked at as weak or impotent or irrational or needy or unlovable. So women are terrified of going to that place. That's why they go to therapists, because, they sense that we will, be able to listen. But here's the secret, which the book points out, is as therapists, we can listen so easily without reacting because we're not being blamed. The negative emotions aren't about us. They're about their husband, so we can empathize. So I use that logic, and I've taught that I think women need to go through training just like men need to go through training of how to share feelings and men how to listen to feelings. Then the training looks like this for women to then go to their husbands and talk about things that are bothering them and the emotions linked to that, only if they're not about their partner. Because that trains a man to experience a new skill, which is to be able to feel this empathy, but also be detached from his reactions. Just to be present. When you talk about being present, a lot of people don't know what anybody means when they say that, but what you described it perfectly is you're not reacting with your own stuff. You're not coming from a defense. You're not coming from a place of trying to change her in any way, judge her in any way, but you're in a place of trying to see the world through her eyes and through her feelings. Yeah. And men can do this. Men are amazing if they don't feel they're being attacked.
Right.
That's the whole thing. So, some people teach classes of, don't take it personally. Don't take it like you. And that's good. And I do that to some extent. But the easiest training is for women to say, we're going to do Venus talk, 10 minutes. I'm going to just complain about my life, but I'm going to connect with my emotions. I just need you to hear about it without fixing it, solving it, changing it. It's not about you. I just need you to listen. And then do it for about 5-10 minutes and then thank him, a big hug, and then get out of the room for a little while. Leave him alone so he can kind of reflect on what just happened. I didn't fix it and she felt better.
Right.
I didn't solve it and she felt better. I like this job. What man doesn't want that job? But it takes a while to let go of the impulse to always try to fix things, because that's going to boost our testosterone. And that's also what gets us love is, no woman marries a guy who can't fix stuff,
Except my wife, but that's an exception, but we'll talk about that later.
Say that again?
I said, except for my wife.
Well, no, you fix people. You fix stuff all day long. Are you kidding?
No, you're right about that. I hire people to fix the house.
That's exactly right. I'm not a Mr. Fix It with it. No, it's you have an ability that does something in the world, and that's what women want from a man, not a man who just needs to be taken care of all the time. They call that, oh, I feel like I'm his mother, and that's the death to a sex life, is when she starts feeling she's his mother. Right. And ironically, women always blame men for that. But I go, wait a second, you're feeling like his mother. Who's responsible for that? Right. So what she has to do, and I empathize because she'll give me all the reasons why he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this. And I say, would you just stop being his mother and worrying about him and worry about yourself? And if he's not giving you things that you want, give it to yourself, be responsible, grow up. Don't look to him for everything. You're being like a child and then covering it up like a mother. So back off of trying to change him and correct him. And ultimately, you know, one of the takeaways that I got so clear about when I wrote this book is, it's right in the introduction. If you want more in your relationship, asking for more, first of all, stop trying to change your partner. Because your mind goes, if I want more, I have to change my partner. If you try to change your partner, you get less.
Yep.
So what do you do? Well, first step one is stop trying to change your partner. All the ways we try to manipulate and change our limbic system, we get upset to intimidate our partner. We feel hurt to guilt our partner. We withhold, we teach, we reject, we get angry. All these different ways different people will try to change their partner. None of them work. We're programmed to do it because our monkey brain did that.
Yep.
Our parents did that. The conditioning goes back forever. So we got to go, that's one part of me. If I'm trying to change my partner, it's not going to get me more. So what do? Change myself. And that's finding the hormonal balance within ourselves, which means lower my stress so I'm happy. So find your happiness. And, you know, for me, it's if I'm upset with my wife, stop trying to change her. You're upset with her because you wanted to change. Stop. Do something that you're good at that will raise your testosterone. If you're a woman, you're trying to change your man, stop. Do something that will raise your estrogen. Go talk to a girlfriend. Go do something nice for yourself till you're feeling good and you're not depending on him to make you feel good. You can make yourself feel good. That's step 2, feel good. Step 3, give more to your partner, but give them what they need, not what you're wanting, because we often give our partners what we want, but not what they really are wanting more. So give your partner more of what they're really asking for. And when you give your partner what they're asking for and needing, you will always get more back from them. That's the universal message. And that's why people intuitively sense, if I give more, I'll get more. But over and over, what we see is women say, I give and give and give, I don't get back. That's because you're giving to try to change him. That's another manipulation. If I just do this for him, he'll have to do this for me. That doesn't work. It has to be giving from a place of overflow. Look what I'm already getting, what I already have to give. Then give more, knowing what's most important to the opposite sex. And that's what the book is understanding what stimulates more testosterone in men and what stimulates more estrogen and progesterone and oxytocin in women.
That is so great. And that is something that I think the viewers here need to really hear. Don't try to change your partner. Find a way to regulate your own emotions by uplifting. And again, hormonally speaking, men raise their testosterone, women raise their estrogen. And then from that sense of overflow, like you said, or like having rather than not having, abundance with scarcity, then even when you ask, it comes out different. It's not being seen as you're a bad husband or you're a bad spouse.
Right. If you ask, and I'm all into asking, but only when you don't have to have that in order to feel happy. You're already happy. You're wanting more than happy. And you know, people go, well, if I'm already happy, why do I have to ask for more? I go, well, that's a good point. But the truth is,
yeah.
One of the things about a good relationship, I've married 32 years, have a good relationship, is I'm very clear that my wife can make herself happy. She's got a rich life that she lives. What I can do is make her happier. That's our job as men, not to make our wives happy, but to make them happier. That's the really practical thing that you can do. And the truth is, when I'm able to make her happier, I become happier. It's really her receptivity to receiving more from me than anybody else, which makes it a special relationship. That's what makes me feel more alpha male, more fulfilled within myself, and a bigger boost of testosterone.
That is great. That is great. I love it. Now, you actually go even more specific, which I felt is great, in terms of the cycle of the woman. And that's really a little more
good stuff. Yeah.
That's really technical with the estrogen and the progesterone and what different needs in the I time and the we time, I time, you time, we time.
Yeah.
We talk. I didn't want to leave the interview without you talking a little bit about that, because that's really something.
It's a really, and I want to give credit where credit is due. I didn't develop this. My daughter, Lauren Gray, has been teaching my seminars for over 10 years. And so she is like, but she's got the woman's point of view, and she argues with me a lot. She's the younger generation.
Right.
And she explains, this whole thing about women's different needs at different times. So she came up with the ideas, to be quite honest. I did the research to find the biology of it all, but it's absolutely brilliant. Her name's Lauren, and she does do things for women at my website, marsvenus.com. Little plug for her, because she's brilliant. But the idea here is, if women, first I'm going to go over the woman's cycle, what happens. If you look at a chart of a happy, healthy woman over 30 days or 28 days, you'll see her hormones are changing all the time. And it's always not exactly the same, but roughly the same. So when she's doing her period for 3 to 5 days, it's going to be very low, all hormone production drops. Then during the next 5 days, her testosterone and estrogen begin to rise a little. Okay, so testosterone is a sense of independence. Estrogen is a sense of interdependence, needing someone, whereas testosterone, I can do it myself. So those 4 to 5 days, women are, actually, that's the most confident time of the month. Okay, it's kind of like I can do it myself and I've got help. All right, so that's a more creative time for her too, but those 5 days. But then suddenly, after 5 days, her period's over, right. 5 days, suddenly her hormones shift. And for the next 5 days, her estrogen levels have to double. If they don't double, she's not going to be as happy and fulfilled. Or if they double, just because that's particularly young women, they'll automatically start to double. When they start to double, what happens psychologically when estrogen levels start to suddenly rise, she begins to feel her need for love, for intimacy, for being in the center of attention, for affection, for caring, and sex. She will feel that need dramatically increase. Double, basically, it goes up. Now, as it's going up towards ovulation, so it basically hits a peak and at ovulation, and this is evolutionary factor, so she's going to go out and have sex at a time when she can make a baby.
Right. And
she's going to have sex with the guy that fulfills her needs the most, because that's, you want some guy who's going to be there for you. So as her estrogen's going up, her awareness of what she needs suddenly turns on. Those first 5 days after her period, yeah, I need help, but I can do this. Then suddenly she's more aware of what do I need, and if she's not getting what she needs, she becomes more aware of what I'm missing.
Right.
So this is where suddenly a woman will be upset and say, we never go out, we never have fun, you never listen to me, you're always doing this. And the guy goes, wait a second, yesterday everything was fine. What just happened? What happened was a shift in hormones. Yes. So now she's going to be more aware of her needs. At the same time, during those 5 days, if she's not getting what she needs, she'll be more upset. Okay, like if I'm hungry, then I'm going to be more upset if I don't get fed. If I'm not hungry, not so important. Or she's going to be happier than ever before, because when you're hungry and somebody feeds you, then you're filled with love and appreciation and support. So this is this tricky 5 days where your relationship skills, men, are most important. And ironically, what I suggest to men is find out when her period is over. Then now you've got to plan a date 7 days in advance. So throughout this time where it seems like she doesn't need a lot, she's already anticipating in 7 days, I'm going to get what I need, which is special attention, affection, a date. She's the center of attention, and it's all going to her. So understanding this cycle, knowing when her period ends, now I know I want to schedule a date for 7 days from now. So now she's anticipating getting something special. Because remember, what helps bring women back to their estrogen side is the anticipation of getting what they need one of these higher needs, which is the need for intimacy. And intimacy is estrogen producing. It's see into her, it's go into her, it's listen to her, it's honor her, make her the center of attention. And she's not asking for it all the time. She's just wanting it during those 4 to 5 days.
Right.
So now that's the most important time. And then in a sense, if she gets what she needs, then she's pretty much a happy camper for the rest of the month. So that's the key thing. But if she misses it at that time of where she's supposed to get the support she needs, if she doesn't get it, there's a part of her that feels like I've been missing out for the next 12 days. So it's really critical. Now, after ovulation, her hormones change in a happy, healthy woman. Her estrogen levels will drop and her progesterone levels will come up. Now, progesterone needs to dominate. It needs to be higher than estrogen. If it's not higher than estrogen, then you get something called estrogen dominance, which is a source of unhappiness and depression and anxiety and dissatisfaction in relationship when estrogen's high at that time. So I simplify, talk about the importance of estrogen,
right,
particularly for hot romantic experience. But after ovulation, most of the time, she needs to have a dominance of progesterone. And progesterone is produced not from pair bonding, where she's dependent on her partner for extra support, but from social bonding, right, which is interacting in a social setting where everything is reciprocal. What I'm giving you is equivalent to what you're giving me. And that's social bonding. Or me time, which is self-nurturing time, which is what my daughter talks about. The 3 types of relationship is we time, which is that pair bonding of male-female. She's depending on you for this extra intimacy and listening to her and compliments and all that. That's we time. Then there's you time, which is today, that's where women are out there in the work world building testosterone.
right,
And they need to balance that testosterone with me time. And me time either is nurturing yourself or doing social bonding because you enjoy it. Not from sacrifice, but by enjoying it. Now, many women do social bonding, but they feel like, oh, I have to do it. Anytime you have to do something, you're in the testosterone mode.
That's you time. That's
you time, right. So a lot of women are very social, but they're so hung up inside themselves that, oh, I have to be polite, I have to do this, it's only the way you have to do it, that they're really not enjoying a true reciprocal relationship. It's more of a, I should do this, or I have to do this. And that's always going to put you as a woman into the role of testosterone. And again, nothing wrong with being over on testosterone side, but that just means you need to produce more estrogen in order to lower the testosterone. And then if it's those 12 days after your period, then you also have to have more social bonding or me time, which is self-nurturing time.
So, I mean, can you imagine if we really get this and we start to track it and tune in? First of all, there's so much we understand, so we could grant that to each other. The second thing is we don't take things personally. We start to realize, and of course, it sounds to me that when you're talking about is day 5 to about day 14 or so, that's when, day 6, 40, that's when the man really needs to be there for the women.
That's right. And particularly, you got the period is over. Then for 5 days, you're not have to be there. But then after 5 days after the period, for those next 5 days, that's when it's most important for him to be there.
Right.
Then in the rest of the month, he needs to be there. She needs estrogen, but not as much. She needs to recognize that when she's unhappy with him, if it's during those 12 days, it's not about him. It's about her needing me time, either social benefit or self-nurturing. And just not to listen to those feelings, not to validate and justify those feelings of dissatisfaction about him. You go, yes, I'm feeling dissatisfied by him, but because it's this time of the month, I know it has nothing to do with him. It has to do with my imbalance within myself. So let me go and do something I love doing, spend time in a social setting where I'm getting back exactly what I'm putting out. Or let me do something that makes me feel good by myself, which is supporting me time. A hot bath, going for a walk, going shopping, whatever it is. And ironically, going shopping, there's 2 types of shopping. One type of shopping is me time, which is shopping for myself, or I'm going and I'm shopping for other people that I enjoy doing. I mean, All these subtleties exist, and it is very complicated, but I think what my daughter's done is simplified it with the we time, me time, and you time.
Yeah,
Whenever you're resenting your partner, you tend to think, I need more we time. Nope, that's the time you need more me time, where you need to do social bonding or self-bonding, rebuild those hormones, and then come back and ask what you want, and you'll get more of it.
That is so great. It's wonderful. I mean, I got to, being that I'm here, like I said, teaching, and I've been learning so much about. I was a bio major at USC too, back in the old days, and undergraduate. But to put it together that way, it makes sense. And like I said to you, I've been using it with couples, and it really works. It's motivating when people get it, they understand it. By the way, the link to the Amazon book is in the show titles as people are watching it. So you could see that and order his book, Beyond Mars and Venus. John did a great job explaining so many things, but believe me, get the book, read the book. It's going to really help. You got to hear this more than once. As a matter of fact, I read it and I heard you and I learned it even more deeply just hearing it a second time. And believe me, I'll be looking at it a third, fourth, and fifth time because there's a lot. It's a meaty book, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's going to be very helpful.
You know, there's one thing that you had your list of questions. One is about anger. Shall we talk about that one?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I just felt it's understanding the hormonal differences between men and women. You just mentioned helps to motivate us in new ways to find balance without looking to our partner to change us, but to change ourselves.
Yes.
I see one of the biggest obstacles in marriages today. As men become more in touch with our feelings, we actually erupt in anger more. Now there's the expressed anger, or there's the pouting form of anger, the sort of passive aggressive form of anger, but we have it. And because, in a sense, we're liberated men, we're more in touch with our feelings. So when that anger is there, it's going to be stronger, put it that way. And it raises estrogen. And what the whole point of this book is to show that men are healthier and behave better and are happier when their testosterone levels are greater than their estrogen. And as soon as you're feeling angry, when I start to feel angry with my wife, I now have the self-awareness to go, oh, if I'm getting angry, my estrogen levels are rising, my testosterone is going down. Now what's going to happen is more cortisol is going to be produced in the brain. Mm-hmm. It's a stress hormone, which causes blood flow to go to the back part of the brain, which is the defensive fight or flight. Right. So when men start to go out of hormone balance, when I'm starting to feel angry, what happens, that means my emotions are increasing, my testosterone is going down. And the thing what we do at that time is if we talk to our partner about what we're angry about, it will only increase our estrogen. So do you want your estrogen to keep coming up? Do you want to become more feminine at that time, or do you want to become more masculine at that time? And so you have two options. One is you can practice good listening skills to not get angry. But if once you are angry, how do you come back to not being angry? I'm not saying suppress your anger. I'm saying to do something, shift gears, to do something that will raise your testosterone, and your estrogen will naturally go down. You don't suppress your anger, you just restore balance, and now you're not angry anymore. Right. So it's not suppression. It's about, see, for women, if they're angry, they need to talk to somebody about it. Otherwise, if they hold it inside, it will be suppression. If she goes to her male side, she will then suppress those emotions that need to come up and increase her estrogen. So when women can feel their anger and express it and somebody hears it, their estrogen levels will go up, and that lowers her stress. Now, for a man, his estrogen levels going up doesn't lower his stress, okay? It can feel good. You know, you can feel like I'm being powerful, monkey man, gorilla, and all this stuff, and I'm going to intimidate her. And all that does, it usually doesn't work out in the end anyway, so it doesn't work, A. B, it strengthens the control of your impulsive monkey brain rather than your prefrontal cortex, which should be in charge. Right. So every time you feel angry, you already know this is only going to get worse and worse, because as soon as a man expresses what his words are in an angry tone, that's threatening to a woman. And therefore, what happens to her, instead of her estrogen going up, no, she has to protect herself. Her testosterone comes up.
Right.
So that throws her out of balance. So an angry man keeps a woman in her male side and holds a man to his female side, which
Wow.
throws us out of balance.
Right.
So in a kind of a plumbing level of biochemistry, it's like when I'm angry, I know what do I need to do? There's a million things I could do right now that could increase my testosterone. I can summarize it. It's going to be different for different men. But the bottom line of what creates testosterone is I'm going to go do something that I'm good at. That's it. Do something meaningful that I'm good at.
Yeah. Feel successful, right?
That's right. To feel successful. Whatever makes you as a man feel successful, go do that. Then you feel successful. Your testosterone comes up. Then when you look back on what happened, you're able to then be even more masculine and look at, gee, how did I contribute to that problem? How did I contribute? You're never going to be in blame if you're on your masculine side. When you're on your female side, it's always, look what somebody did to me. Right. And I'm not saying that that's not valid. Certainly people do things to us, but it shouldn't be the dominant feeling for a man. The dominant feeling is, okay, they did that to me. What can I do about that? And how did I contribute to that so that that wouldn't happen again in the future? So it's that problem-solving part of us is increases our masculine energy. And then as we're thinking about what was upsetting to us, we feel compassion. When you feel confident in yourself and somebody you love is hurting, you feel empathy and compassion. And then you go back and you're more loving. That's the answer. Always love is the answer, but you got to find your way back to giving more from a place of not needing to change my partner.
So true. So true. How many times? I've been married 33 years. I can tell you, when I didn't do it right, and I haven't, and I reacted, and like you said, the estrogen comes up. It doesn't decrease my stress. It increases my stress. And then finally, when I'm away and I do something and I feel good about what I've done, it could be something small. It doesn't have to be something big. It could be, planting of something in your garden, or it could be something huge. And then it's like, I look and I go, oh, and then the compassion is like, oh my God, this poor woman, because now my testosterone's been increased, and like, oh my God, you start to get out of your egocentric self. And that's when it can really be effective. And
egocentric self, another way of saying that is to get out of the defensiveness, which is so natural to the monkey brain. I mean, this is how we survived, is by defending ourselves. In a sense, we're warriors. And that defensive part of the brain is bigger and faster reaction than in women. We are really the defensive ones, but then they will become defensive back. And here's now another, taking that insight, another level. Whenever women are like upset with us, often they're upset with us and really they're exaggerating. We don't like to say overreacting, but often women know they can get upset about things, and an hour later they go, well, that was kind of unjustified. He's a really good guy. I gave him a hard time. They know that happens inside. So at those times where she is on her reactive side, emotional reactive side, the objective in a man's brain is to point out to her how unjustified those feelings are. Right. Okay, so your wife, let's say my wife, she's got a house, insurance, cars, and lives in a nice neighborhood, safe, and now she's complaining about her life. And I kind of go and go, honey, think about, how much more you have than almost every other woman in the world. How can you be upset about this? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to use logic to explain to her why she shouldn't feel the way she should feel. No, she needs to feel estrogen. She's got to find something to rouse it up and bring it up. That's A. Next, if it's about me, now what I want her to look at is how she contributed to the problem. I'll look at how I contributed to the problem, but what about you? And that's what we always want to do as men, is point out how they're creating the problem. But what we're doing is trying to create in them, in that moment, a sense of accountability. Accountability raises testosterone. Estrogen is not accountability. So the last thing I want to do now in my mind is try to get her to see what she did wrong, because that would be being accountable. No, let her just feel what she feels. Soon she'll come back to her balance of accountability. She'll get back to her testosterone. Women have no problem moving back to testosterone, but first let them go to what will lower their stress, which is literally non-logical, non-accountable, and totally emotional. That is the most powerful estrogen stimulator that exists.
That's great. That's great. And you say it, you discriminate between, we do things that feel good maybe for the moment, but it doesn't necessarily reduce our stress. Yeah. And so when we are coming from our estrogen as men, it might feel good. Like you said, get it out, but it doesn't reduce our stress. You know, and for a woman to get into a male and be protective and defensive because of the angry man, it's survival. It makes sense, but it doesn't reduce her stress. Her stress reduces, as you say, when her estrogen can go up, and her estrogen goes up when she feels like, I could trust you. And the man's testosterone goes up when he says, wow, I feel successful around you, and in life in general.
And you just hit the two real buttons there. Trust for women, feeling safety when women feel safe. And for men, when they feel successful. Those are the magic. Testosterone is success, and feeling safe is estrogen. And it's not like, you know, we have to be on our toes and do everything perfect all the time. These are the insights that help us kind of come back to what will work for us.
Right, of course. I always say this with couples. You don't expect to get it right. You're going to get dysregulated. You're going to just stop and get back on the horse. To stop, time out. And then time out. And ironically, my big objective in sharing this is to give people a logical, rational reason to help them take time out. If people, because as therapists, we know if people just take more time out, things will get so much better. Oh, if they just slow it down a little bit, just slow it down.
And this gives them something that will actually restore balance when they take that time out. Because for some people, they naturally take a time out and come back into balance, but some people just hold on to feeling victimized in that time out. Or that's what men do. They can get stuck, and women can get stuck in feeling victimized and not be able to share their feelings. They'll be stuck over there too.
That's great. All that's so great, and I love all of it. The period, your daughter's contribution, I think is wonderful as well. The you time, we time. I love all that stuff. It's just great.
She's been with her partner now 6 years, and I was talking to her the other day, and she was just saying, she's so clear. She says, if I start to resent him for something, I immediately know I need to create me time, come back to feeling happy within myself, and that resentment is no longer there. And then she'll go for her we time by asking for what she wants, and she always gets it because she's not asking from a place of you're not doing enough, but she's asking a place of you could do more, and I'm happy if you can. It's always if you can, or she was telling me the other day, another good technique was when she needs to hear something, she says, and if it's in your integrity to say this or something like this, this is what I need to hear.
Wow.
What a brilliant thing. Most women have no idea you can say that to a man. And what man doesn't want to know? You mean if I just say this, it will make you happy? We would love that. But most women, they don't understand this. And they say, well, no, if I tell you what to say and you say it, you didn't mean it. As opposed to, no, just give me the words to show you what I mean.
And then I can feel successful and not feel controlled.
Right, exactly.
It's great. Well, thank you again, John. I'm going to end the recording now, and everybody get the book, Beyond Mars and Venus, and you could all silently or verbally applaud. I think he was wonderful, and just totally enjoyed the experience, John. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Real pleasure.
All right.